Hello YouTube and welcome back to another alternate history video. Today this video is another what if so-and-so did this percent better, and today I got Michael Dukakis, who was the 1988 Democratic nominee, and this one is if he did 10% better in the 1988 election. Now of course, as you see here by this map, this was the actual 1988 results. George Bush won a comfortable victory, getting more than 400 electoral votes, 426 to be exact. And Dukakis got 112. Dukakis did pretty good in the Midwest. As you see there, won Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa by a pretty big margin, won West Virginia by a few points. Got some northeastern states like New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and of course the District of Columbia. Also got Washington and Oregon and the state of Hawaii. Other than that, Bush swept the board and was able to get a big victory, running off Reagan's popularity, and also Dukakis not being the best debater. Definitely hurt him, not running the best advertisements either. And Bush was able to get a big victory. However, like I said, in this scenario, is if Dukakis did 10% better, how the results go. So getting into it, states that he won by safe margins was, like I said, Iowa, 10.2. So in that case, that would be a 20-point margin there, a big win in Iowa. And reason why he was able to win that state is because of the farm crisis in the late 80s during the Reagan administration. Definitely hurt the Republicans standing in the states at Dukakis, so we got a solid victory there, and it would be even more solid in this scenario, winning by 20 points. Definitely impressive there. The state of Minnesota won by 7 points, so it would be 17 points in this scenario. So another safe margin for Dukakis. Saying there's any more safe, so Massachusetts was by 7 points, that would be by 17 for Dukakis, his home state. The state of Rhode Island was safe 11 points, so that would be 21 points for Dukakis. Interestingly, that he does better in Rhode Island than he does in his home state of Massachusetts. But anyway, of course, DC would still stay safe. He won that by 78 points, doing 10% better. The rest of these states would be unlikely margins because they would be under 15 if we're using 15 as a safe margin. Although if we're using 10 as a safe margin, though, then Wisconsin would be safe, 13.6. So I'll just use 10 as a safe since this map does. Oregon would be about 14.7 points. The state of Washington would be about 11. It was only about 1 in our timeline. I believe the state of Hawaii would be safe as well. It was only about 9 points, but in this scenario, it would be 19. The state of West Virginia would be about 14.7 points. And I think that's pretty much it for some of the safe states. I think all the rest would be pretty likely the ones they would win. Well, I forgot New York. That would actually be about 14 points. But I think that's pretty much it for all the safe states in the Dukakis column. Bush's safe states would still be Idaho, places like Wyoming. Idaho would be about only 16. Wyoming would be only about 12, though. So those would stay with George Bush. The state of Utah would be about 24 points. It was about 34 in our timeline. So still a safe margin there. Same with the state of Arizona would be about 11 points that Bush won by. He won the state of Colorado. But if Dukakis did 10% better, he would actually win that state, but I'll get to that later because I'm still trying to fill out the rest of the Bush safe states. So Nebraska would still be safe by 11 points, where George Bush went by 21 points in our timeline. So I'm saying if there's any more safe states here. It looks like Mississippi would be only about 10.8, however, so just at the low safe margin. The state of Alabama would actually be 9.3, so we'll come back to that. The state of Georgia was about 20 points. That would stay safe with that being 10 points for George Bush. The state of South Carolina would stay safe, 13.9. So there we go with that. Florida would stay safe. It was 22 points in our timeline, but it'd be 12 here for George Bush. So it looks like Indiana would stay safe by 10 points for George Bush. And I think that's about it for him, although New Hampshire, that was by 26 points, so that would be by 16 there for George Bush. Oops, click Vermont there. Which actually did go for Bush, but that was by a few points. As far as New Hampshire goes, that would stay safe for the Bush campaign. Maine at large was only about 11. Maine's first was by 12. Maine's second was by 10. So none of those would be safe. State of Virginia, I forgot about. That'd be about 10 points for the Bush campaign. But I think the rest of the South here would definitely get more competitive. They wouldn't be safe like those other states would. And the state of Alaska would be about 13 points. I would say that's pretty much all the Bush safe states. Now we'll get into some likely states. The state of California, which went for Bush by 3.6, would go for Dukakis by a likely margin in this scenario, doing 10% better. He'd get around 57% of the vote there. Win it by at least, let's do some math here. It would be at least by 6 points or so, 6, 7 points, close to something like that. They win it by. So win there for Dukakis. And it looks like he would win Montana in this scenario. But I believe it would only be by a lean margin or so, because it would be 56 to 52. So around 4 points or so. So Dukakis actually wins Montana in this scenario. Pretty impressive there. The Dakotas looks like would stay with Bush, but only by around 3 points. 3.1 or so. So that drops down to the lean margin. Dukakis doing pretty good here in these Great Plains states. Bush, it looks like, would lose or barely win. South Dakota would be a close one because, well, no, I was looking at Bush's number. So Dukakis would actually win it in a lean margin. Bush hangs on North Dakota. And the state of Kansas, 13 points for Bush. Dukakis would get 52% of the votes, so Bush would stay on there, but only be by around 3 points. So a lean margin in Kansas. The state of Oklahoma was by 16 points. There'd still be a likely margin for Bush there. His home state of Texas would get closer, only by a couple points, so interesting there. A lean margin for George Bush. The state of Nevada here, he actually won by a safe margin. And this is another one I forgot. It would actually stay safe for Bush because he won it by 11. The state of Colorado would be by a lean margin for Dukakis, a couple points or so. The state of New Mexico as well. I think it would be a likely margin for Dukakis to be around 5. Just on the likely margin because he won it by 51 to 56. So the state of Missouri here, another Bush state by only 4 points, but in this scenario would be likely for Dukakis, winning around 6 or so. The state of Arkansas would only go down to a lean margin for Bush. The state of Louisiana would be a close one. It would be tied just about 54.06 to 54.27. So Bush would eke out a win there. That'd be a tilt margin. Interestingly, our first tilt state on the map, on this map, I should say. And the state of Alabama would be around a likely margin, 9.3 for George Bush. Illinois here was for Bush, but it would be Dukakis in this scenario. It would win by, it looks like, a safe margin. So he would get 58, or close to a safe margin. So it would actually be likely for Dukakis. The state of Kentucky and Tennessee were Bush states, but they would still be that. But I think it would be a tilt margin actually in Kentucky, because if it'd be by about a point and going by the margins on here, because one or less being tilt, it would stay with Bush barely 1.6 or so. And the state of Tennessee would also stay with Bush by a likely margin. The state of Ohio, the Buckeye State went for Bush by 10 points, but it would barely stay with him here by a tilt margin, 1 point or so. So George Bush still wins Ohio, but by a lesser margin. The state of Indiana would actually stay safe by 10 points, which I actually already did fill in, I forgot. But moving on to the state of North Carolina, that would only be about a likely margin for George Bush. So still a pretty solid win there. And the state of Pennsylvania went to Bush by 2 points. It would be a likely margin here, however, for Dukakis. Solid win there. The state of Michigan was a Bush state. We'll go by a couple points or so here for Dukakis getting 55% of the vote. So I believe a lean margin there for Michael Dukakis. And he's getting closer to 270. So getting into the Northeast here, Maine, all went for Bush. But it would be a tilt margin for Maine at large. Or I should say Maine's second, actually. As Dukakis would get 54.5, so Bush would eke out a win in the second district. Close one there. Maine at large would be a lean Bush win, it looks like. Or if it's actually only a point, really, then it would be 1.5, I guess. So that'd be another tilt margin in Maine at large. And Maine's first would be 53.3, so that'd be around 2.6 for Bush, so that'd be still in the tilt margin, because 2 is actually considered tilt with these margins. 3 is actually when you get the lean. As you see here, according to this, Bush won Pennsylvania by 2.3, and they still have it as tilt, so I'll put all of Maine as tilt. But if I was going by 1 being the lean margin, then it would be bumped up to lean, but we're going with 3 being the lean margin here. So 0 to 2 is tilt. The state of Vermont went for Bush. However, I would go for Dukakis here on a likely margin. And this definitely showcases Vermont moving away from the Republicans around this point, because it only went to Bush by 4, and then, of course, 4 years later, it went solidly for Bill Clinton. And it shows you in this scenario, if Dukakis at 10% better, it shows you the significant change in the state when it used to be a Republican stronghold. As you see here, Bush still winning New Hampshire safe, but Dukakis getting Vermont likely, like I said, definitely shows Vermont's shift to the Democratic Party around this time. So definitely an interesting thing there. And for the rest of the Northeast here, the state of Connecticut was a Bush state. It would be around 5 points or so for Dukakis here. And so you get 56% of the vote. So winning Connecticut, and he is closer to 270. The state of New Jersey would still go for Bush by a lean margin or so. If we get closer there. So this is a close one here. The state of Delaware would still go for Bush as well, but they're only around 2.4 points, so tilt margin there. And it looks like the state of Maryland is going to determine this election. Pretty interesting there. So this will go for Dukakis, a likely margin. And with that, Michael Dukakis wins the state of Maryland, and he wins the presidency. A narrow one, though, 279 to Bush's 258. So definitely an interesting one here. Dukakis in 10% better and gets the win, but narrowly. He wins states like Montana, South Dakota, Colorado. Definitely impressive there. And, of course, flipping states like Pennsylvania that he didn't win in real life, Michigan, Illinois, Vermont, Maryland, as I said, and states like that, and like I said, Vermont. And so, yeah, this is definitely an interesting one. I didn't expect it to be this close. Well, I kind of did, considering Bush had 400 electoral votes in our timeline, but I didn't expect it to come down to the last state I did to determine the winner, Maryland. So definitely an interesting one there. I hope you enjoyed this. Comment below your thoughts on this. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. I'm glad I got to do another one of these. I did a Bob Dole one not too long ago. Go check that out if you haven't yet. And I hope, like I said, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope to continue doing more of these. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you next.